Welcome to PM Express Business Edition, and we're coming to you from Washington, D.C., where the annual spring meetings, that is the IMF and World Bank, have been going on, and it has ended. And we're grateful to have the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. Now, so many people ask that after we secure this program, how do we stay on track in terms of fiscal discipline and stabilizing the economy? So some would ask, after the program, what next? Staying on course, trying to get more answers from the Finance Minister. Thank you so much, Honorable, for your time, and I do appreciate your time for having an audience with us on the PM Express Business Edition. How are you doing?
Very well. It's good to come to the end of the meetings, but it's been a very good week for Ghana, I would say. Yeah.
Would you describe it as interesting and stressful? I have been to these meetings several times, but this one has been a different experience altogether.
How so?
As in stressful, catching up stuff. The interest back in Ghana is interesting. Everybody is so much interested in what is happening here. And that's just a personal experience, but that doesn't matter. I mean...
No, but I mean, you did get a chance to speak with lots of people here, so I guess you get a sense of the optimism that I think has been engendered. We seem to have found favor, and the fund, the bank, are all looking to ensure that the program goes well. So we are impressed with the strong support that we have enjoyed and we are enjoying from the bank officials, U.S. government, and the fund officials.
There's been a lot of goodwill from the multilaterals, the donors and all the rest, in terms of this meeting and personally engaging people. Are you surprised by this?
I'm not sure whether the word surprise. I'm very pleased with what it is, but we have as a country worked very hard to get here, and we have stuck to it in the difficult times, as you know, especially through the debt exchange program. And I think the world recognizes that we are prepared to take responsibilities and share in the burden of what we have to do. But still, clearly, I believe God's favor is on the country, and it's really up to us to continue to work hard so that we can get through this program.
I mean, some will say that does it put a lot of pressure on you in terms of the goodwill to ensure that company Ghana, as its board chair or its CEO, lives up to the expectation?
Ghana Inc., you would say. I mean, the pressure is really, in the end, to do your best, understand that there will be difficulties, but you have to take the community across the Jordan, and that's what we intend to do, irrespective of the difficulties. But we are confident that we are doing the right thing, we are on the right path. And the challenge really, George, is that yes, we will get our board approval, hopefully in short order. But what do we, as a nation, learn from that? How do we ensure expenditure controls, commitments to that, raise our revenue, and ensure that we spend what we earn? I mean, I think those are going to be the issues that the country has to contend with. Understanding how to protect the public purse and ensuring that we all pay our taxes and we all don't waste government resources.
It's interesting you've spoken about revenue and expenditure, but I'll be coming to that as the interview goes. So, but I'll just still again try to backtrack a little bit about this meeting again. For you, how would you describe the annual meetings for you as Team Ghana and even you personally as a minister?
Team Ghana has been phenomenal. I think the team from The ministry has been phenomenal. You know, I guess it's sort of 12, 17-hour days, but everybody keeps putting their shoulders to the wheel. That's good. For me personally, this is a much more positive experience than last October, and so that's good news. I mean, George, I think the fact of the matter is that we have pulled our weight. We have recognized that we were in trouble, and we have put the correct measures in place. I think the key thing for us as Ghanaians is that we know how to pull ourselves back, and we persevere, and we don't give up. And that's what I think is also distinctive, maybe in a sense, about the administration. We will meet problems like how we met COVID, and we tackled it and got through it. We met a fund program in 2017, and we tackled it and got through it. We met a banking system that was crashing, and we tackled it and made them profitable. So we are here at this junction, and I'm confident that with that same resolve, we would also do that.
This is PM Express Business Edition, engaging the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta on this IMF program. And some will say that after getting this program, how do we stay on course? And also looking at how this meeting has gone for country Ghana or company Ghana. Take a short break, and we will be right back. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we look at the IMF program, and it's likely that Ghana is going to get this program, but how do we stay on course as a country when it comes to fiscal discipline and ensure that there isn't any derailment? We have with us Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Honorable, one would want to ask that as we speak right now, and knowing what you're in a more privileged position, what is the status of Ghana's program?
Very good. I would say with all confidence, very good. We, as you know, completed the prior actions that was necessary for that. The last bit being the revenue measures in Parliament, and Parliament was very generous to approve those before the recess. And that really was the last bit that was required, so that's done. The MEFP is also done. The debt strategy has been submitted. And now we wait for the financing assurances from the Paris Club. And we are really confident that within the next couple of weeks we should get that. And the managing director has promised that once she receives that, she will quickly take that to the board, and then we expect a board approval. So I think on our part as a country, we have in record time done what we should do, and we wait for the Paris Club to bring the assurances, and then the board to sit to do that. So that would be good. That would then approve the 3 billion facility, which will be front-loaded.
Have we crossed all our T's and dot our I's that this time around we are so confident? Because I said that initially there were projections that we'll meet it in March. Now the minister is saying in May. I mean, how sure are we, Honorable? And also the Doubting Thomases who still doubt whether this thing is going to be realized until they have seen that statement from the executive board. They don't believe what the minister is saying.
That's okay. So we all wait.
I'm just saying that for that assurance
look,
that.
I mean, George, we are all in this country. We've seen Doubting Thomases. We've seen a lot of people who are invested in work, and each time we make progress. And so I would consider more the experience and history of what happens. Would there be delays in any program? Of course there will be delays. Does that mean that the program will not come on? That is not a conclusion to make. I'm confident that we'll get a program. It may tarry, but it will come.
But at least we are sure that in the second quarter that something should come.
Oh, definitely.
How do you take the comments that have come from the IMF Managing Director, the African Department Director, and you sometimes want to ask yourself that is it the same scripts being passed around or what? Because
which comments are you talking about?
The MD saying that, listen, Ghana is going to get the program, financial assurance is coming in as soon as possible. You hear the African Department Director, Bebe Selassie, press conference, you asked him, listen, Ghana has met all the preconditions left with external assurances, and you hear words like, as soon as, and all the rest.
Okay. So the question is?
The question is that, how do you take all these comments coming from all these external parties that they've always been independent in their analysis and their assessment of the economy and what they say? The IMF has been blunt in the past and have always been blunt and certain tough words being used on government, this present administration.
But isn't it instructive then that they are very encouraging about where we are? I mean, clearly we are doing something right. And it's, I mean, you can juxtapose it with the other countries that are also going through this program in terms of Ethiopia, Chad, Zambia, etc. And maybe they see a distinct difference as to what we are doing and what they have done. So that may acknowledge. Why don't you want to accept the good news? That Ghana is doing well.
At the press conference, you explained to us that what the fund is looking forward to is that critical assurance from the Paris Club.
That's correct.
And we're on track to get that, some would say.
We are. I think you've asked this question in various ways. But it is. I mean, George, I think you need to give it to your country that we have stuck to it. We have moved at a historic pace. It's fast. And I think we will conclude in a historic way.
China, we appear to have gotten around the challenge. I mean, when you follow this meeting, where people thought that, and not just Ghana alone, people thought that initially China was dragging the restructuring process and all the rest for other countries. It appears that we've gotten that commitment from China for them when it comes to Ghana's program.
Yeah, as you know, we did take a trip to China, and really we had excellent meetings with the finance minister and the Exim Bank chair, in which they were very clear that this is a hiccup in our development. It's a short-term issue. They will back us to make sure we get over this hump, and so we can move on to the medium and long term. And that is what we expect them, therefore, to do with regards to providing the finance and assurances to the Paris Club so that they can go to the board. But the Paris Club itself has said that they would be going to the board once they have enough of the countries committing to it. So that really removes any sense of doom from any one country or the other.
I know there were preconditions that were supposed to have been met before this program, and from the African Department Director's comment, you've met almost all of them.
We pretty much met them. There were 5 prior actions, getting a number of these statutory agencies onto the GIFMIS platform, the COVID report being done, that was done, PURC automatically every quarter trying to get the tariffs to ensure that we are paying, market rates. And then the revenue bills, as I mentioned. And the last is an MOU between the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana for zero financing.
There's been utility adjustment as well. Some would ask that, what else, Honorable, are we going to give in for this program? because there are some who are worried that, and it's not just Ghana alone, a fund program comes with strict conditions, and that comes with some tough times for Ghanaians. There are some who are worried about the fact that there are still more that we're going to give in for this program.
I'm not sure what more there is. What I see in the fund program really is more of a discipline in expenditure, and a push to ensure that we continue to enhance our revenue mobilization strategies. And that will mean digitalization, pushing GRA a lot more. On the energy side, making sure that ECG is able to collect for all the power that it gives out, and ensuring that MMDAs are not able to give contracts that are not in the budget. So those are disciplines that we need to adopt anyway. And so I'm not sure that there's anything excessive that we should not be doing.
We shouldn't expect further review in taxes. We shouldn't expect further review in utility tariffs as well. And those are the concerns that some...
well, the question really to ask is whether we shouldn't pay for what we consume. How much subsidy can you give in any area? But within the fund program, it's also like a doubling of LEAP, as in the resources we put into the livelihood and empowerment program. I'm looking to increase how much we put into school feeding to make sure that the vulnerable are also taken care of. But I think all of us need to pay our way for everything else that we do.
So we're going to look at some reviews and tariffs as well to make up for more of a full cost recovery, some will say.
Full cost recovery for tariffs, we should move towards that. At the same time, you protect the lower band so that you don't deny them water and electricity. But all of us who should be able to afford and use and pay for it, we should do that.
Some Ghanaians are worried that they've already taken a lot of hits, and whilst we get excited about this program, the shocks of the program will have a lot of pressure on some Ghanaians.
I don't know. What we have been doing since July, when we started discussions, I don't know that anything is going to change. We have to make sure that we keep increasing revenues. We have to make sure that expenditures that should not happen will not happen. And then we'll be able to cut our quote as I should be.
Let's look at market confidence and getting this program. What are your expectations in terms of its impact on the investor response and then market confidence as well?
Well, you saw what happened when there was no sense of where we were going last year, and the currency took a nosedive, etc. And people were just not sure, and there was lack of confidence. Obviously, there's been some stability with these discussions going forward. The market responds to, any system that is looking at its, expenditures and revenues. And as long as we keep at it, I think the market will be positive. In terms of returning to, let's say, the international capital markets, I suspect it to take, some 2-3 years or so, if not more, for us to get back to it. In the interim, we should be able to generate local resources to do that. But I think what's also significant about the program, if you look at the Ghana Cares program, is our policy to be self-sufficient in poultry, rice, tomatoes, etc., which we began to do. And so that will reduce your foreign exchange demands and actually, hopefully, also begin to export those products.
The Zambian currency jumped to become the best currency in Africa as soon as they got the program. Are you waiting with bated breath on the positives for the economy when this program is closed and the announcement is made?
I'll be very excited about the announcement being made, that's for sure. Yeah, I think really we should just be calm about it. You know, let's get into the discipline of working hard, the discipline of not relying on imports, but looking at an export-driven economy. To put an end to the importation of food, that's for sure, and just not waste the resources, you know, and our own maybe senses of entitlement, you know, should be abated some and work for what we want to consume.
But when we come, you spoke about revenue, you spoke about fiscal discipline. We look at staying on course during this fund program. Some will say that the biggest challenge will be derailment, and how are you going to whip everyone in line to ensure that there is a program? Things have to change. This is PM Express Business Edition. We'll take a short break and be right back. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition, which will look at the IMF program and how does the country Ghana, or the company Ghana, stay on course to ensure that there's indeed fiscal discipline and there isn't any derailment of the train called Ghana. We are having the Minister of Finance, Ken Wiafe, to get some understanding from him with respect to what will be the next line of action after getting this program. Nabo, thank you so much. And I know you explained this to us during the press conference earlier. Already, the labor unions are up in arms. And what do you have to tell them? Their concerns about this pensions, that something is being done about them. They are worried, and they think that no, the MOU was there, but don't come back and touch the pension funds. That's where their concerns are.
Yeah, the MOU is still there. You have read the MOU?
I haven't read the fine details, sorry.
Okay, no. I mean, it's basically, we agreed to an exemption. We also agreed that we'll work together to ensure debt sustainability and macro stability. It was put there for a purpose of understanding that we are in this boat together. There has to be some thinking about burden sharing and ensuring that the country survives. And so continuing dialogue and discussions cannot be bad. I think the other question was whether there's going to be a second round of the DEP. What was clear after we had done was that we still had to deal with cocoa bills and the US denominated local dollar bonds, and those discussions are going on. Hopefully we'll come to some resolution in those.
But now, was that person on the street who doesn't appreciate these finances issues and all the rest, and investment and restructuring, when got the message first that pensions are not part of this debt restructuring? Now, for that person on the street, he doesn't appreciate all these fine English and everything. His understanding is that our pension funds now going to be added to this debt exchange program. Is he wrong?
I mean, George, so the person did not understand what we had agreed to do, and is therefore apprehensive of the way forward. But we do have an MOU that has all of those elements in there. So I'm not sure whether I'm the only person responsible for explaining to them exactly what we agreed with the unions. But that's all discussions that will go on. I mean, at the end of the day, we get a certain amount of revenue that has to be disbursed. And we need to prioritize and see how best to do that. We can't conjure any more revenue unless we decide to print money. And we are having a zero financing.
You reached out on the memorandum of understanding
that we are going to sign with the Bank of Ghana. So there will be no kind of deficit financing of that nature. So we need to work within our box, and within that box we are going to be working.
Are you really prepared for the MOU? Some are saying that for an economy like Ghana, there are proponents, there are some who are against it, saying that, listen, there should be a level of 5%, 10%, having a strict MOU, zero financing. Are you ready for that? Or not?
That's in the Constitution, the 5-10% or so.
Staying on course, post-IMF program.
Yeah.
Some are saying that fiscal discipline has been one of our biggest challenges as a country over the years. And I look forward to a day when Ghana will have a balanced budget. How are you going to ensure that under this program, things are going to be different?
I mean, one of the prior actions was actually making sure that Get Fund and DACF, etc., all get onto the GIFMIS system. So our challenge is really how do we place commitment control systems to ensure that expenditure commitments, are rationalized. In a sense, making sure that all payments come through the GIFMIS system, which means you can't book an expenditure if the system will not accept that. And so that begins to then cut down on excessive contracts that may be given in either the roads or education or housing or whatever that we have. So that's going to become the way and manner in which we ensure that public financial management, is really enforced in the coming years. And that then becomes a discipline, and we won't have to worry about that anymore. And so the key thing really is the effectiveness of what we are going to do to these commitment controls through digitalization.
And is the minister going to crack the whip? George Wiafe comes as a minister, putting too much pressure. You have to sign the check for me. This project to finance.
Well, the question is whether there's a check to sign, because you won't have the project to start off with.
Interesting.
So there will be no check to sign.
Revenue has one of the biggest challenges going forward. I mean, there are some who raise concerns about taxes, and we understand the president has given his assent already. Some are worried. They are saying that we can't survive on this. What will be the approach when it comes to revenue? Because some are saying that there are lots of businesses out there, there are a lot of firms out there that are not paying the taxes.
That's correct.
And therefore, let's expand the net. And I started hearing that way back in secondary school about expanding the tax net. But some also complaining that it's the same good and diligent ones that are paying the tax that have been given more rate increments and more taxes to pay. And they are afraid about their ability to continue paying these taxes, as in the golden geese might not be able to lay the golden eggs again.
Yeah. I wish I believe what you just said, but I think most of us do not pay taxes.
Interesting.
I don't think so. But truly, when you begin to have 13% revenue to GDP ratio, and you should be at around 20%, that means a third of taxes that should be paid are not being paid. So we need to come to terms with that. And then we started a pilot of electronic VAT system. There's a company that was reporting 342,000 cedis of sales a month and paying 40,000 cedis in VAT. After the system was put in place, sales were 158 million a month, and VAT was 19.8 million. Okay, so you begin to understand, you know, all of some of these people who shout that GRA is over auditing them, clearly are not doing what they are supposed to do, you know. So once you begin to get all of these appropriate taxes in place, certainly you then get into a period where you actually, as we came in, you remember 2017, we canceled a lot of taxes. As we begin to build up, then certain taxes may not be necessary. But we need the revenue now to be able to move in that direction. I believe that digitalization will help, and as we move towards 18-20% revenue to GDP, to ease, because we, as a market-oriented philosophy for our government, will always look for ways in which we should make businesses pay as little taxes as possible to ensure that employment and expansion comes into place. But there are periods in which we need to generate appropriate taxes so that we can fund the budget.
Looking at the pulse of the economy, and again reflecting the concerns of some of these businesses, the fear is that some of these revenue targets might not be met because of the businesses complaining that there are too many taxes that they are paying. Are you worried about that? And what would be the plan B if we're unable to raise the required revenue to finance the budget?
So what is too many taxes when we are underperforming at 13%? You know, so we need to plug the holes, and that is what the digitalization program would do for us to plug the holes. But we need to put, we need to be very clear that the economy is in trouble and that we have to haul it back, and it's not the first time that has occurred, and we will get through this. But there will be some sacrifices and some difficult periods whilst we go through this journey, but we'll be successful.
If the required revenue is not gotten, will we see a situation where expenditure may have to be reined in to control and to do? Because there's someone saying that you talked about fiscal discipline and expenditure. There are some who argue that they feel that government is still not doing enough in the area of expenditure cuts to deal with the current challenge that is going on.
I mean, I did mention that, first of all, with regards to using gift myths as a way to curtail unnecessary expenditures, that is true. There's a whole program on the state-owned enterprises that we are trying to put into effect to begin to cut down expenditures there. Some of them also have to be sold so that they are not a burden on the public purse. So all of these things will continually be done to ensure that we manage that whilst we also rev up our revenue mobilization strategies.
But do you think that still a lot more can be done? Because some are saying that the signaling effect that sends a lot of Ghanaians is that government is tightening its belt. I mean, who are you not to tighten your belt? And that is where the concern is.
And you don't think we've tightened our belt enough?
They still think that government can do more, and you being the chief accountant,
public purse protector. Yeah.
What else is?
I think we'll continue. I mean, we are doing some. We'll continue, and we'll also ensure that unnecessary expenditures do not happen. It's a journey, and we'll have to just be resolute about that.
Should we look forward to a mid-year review? Basically, the target set in the budget. Am I saying that?
Mid-year review. Mid-year review is upon us. Before we know it, will be July. We did get some of the revenue measures late in terms of what we anticipated getting from January. 3 of the bills were just passed in this last session, so that would certainly affect the revenues. But we don't know. Maybe the electronic VAT system may also prove quite compliant, which will mean that we might get a lot more than we thought. But so far, I think we are on schedule.
What are your expectations for this economy? I mean, let's look at even this year. I mean, there are some who revenue measures haven't kicked in that fast. There are some who are worried about the impact on revenue mobilization. Some are saying that looking at the way things are going, there might be impact on expenditure that might be reviewed as well. That could have impact on projects, that could have the impact on the critical expenditure that should have been done to help stimulate growth as well. How do you see the outlook? And do you think that a lot more rejigging has to be done to still try and stay on course and try and stimulate growth?
I think the stimulating growth issue is a whole different discussion. And we have started a whole economic growth and inbound investment strategy that we are putting together. Because, you know, the fund programs leads to a lot of austerity. And therefore, if you don't have a parallel program that is looking at getting in investment because your savings are so low and ensuring that there's private sector growth, that will be problematic. And those that we are focusing on right now. As you know, when we were here, we had a meeting with U.S. companies to look at how we can facilitate their coming in. So working with Citibank and IFC, etc., to look at a whole investment drive, and with GIPC, now make sure that the issue of job creation and catalyzing growth in the economy continues.
You spoke about the World Bank coming on board with some 250 million commitment to the Stability Fund as well. Are we looking for a African Development Bank coming on board? And also, what will be government's commitment as well to this whole fund in trying to help deal with the challenges in the sector?
I mean, after the exchange, the debt exchange program, you certainly put stress on the banking system, and that's why we are creating this financial stability fund so that we can tackle the solvency and liquidity needs that these financial institutions may need. And this is where the World Bank is looking to support it with $250 million. We hope, you know, between June and September, we should be able to get that. Government will look to put some money into that. Africa Development Bank is working on a program for that, and some of our development partners are also examining that. But for sure, the World Bank has gone a long way in its processing of that, and government will also put some resources into that. So that should be operational, you know, maybe after June, July.
So from after June, July, then
and
issues that have challenges can apply and come and support
exactly.
as well. Just some a little bit of education as well, and to help me out. I know that the IMF is coming on board with some 3 billion. Normally for programs like these, other partners also come on board as well. The World Bank, maybe the German government, the Swiss government as well. Is there any other partners that have also signaled their commitment to come on board to help in turning around or supporting the economy under this program?
I mean, the sort of the traditional support is usually from the World Bank.
Budget support?
Yeah, so we have a DPO arrangement that we are negotiating for maybe $300 million a year, and for 3 years, so close to $1 billion, that is for sure. And then on the development partners, it's on one-on-one. They look at certain programs that they want to support. So we continue with those discussions. So yes, the $3 billion EC, a facility from IMF, the DPO from the World Bank, and then, you know, country by country, you have discussions on.
Tell me more about this Accra, Marrakesh. What is the synergy here? And I know it's part of the discussion that you've been having here.
Yeah. I mean, the World Bank, you know, spring meetings really, usually, it's about looking at the state of affairs globally and understanding how countries should position themselves going forward. There were 3 things we were looking to achieve: an understanding of where the global economy is going, our IMF program, and also looking at what our chairmanship of the V20. The V20 is vulnerable countries that are really being impacted disproportionately by these climate challenges. So we happen in Ghana to be chairing the V20 in the next couple of years. And so the agenda that we have in place is Accra to Marrakesh. You know, we had a summit in Accra in March to signal the beginning of that journey. Marrakesh is the annual meetings for the World Bank that would occur, and exactly what we have to do on this climate financing issue to support this whole agenda of how do we pay for the climate impact. So there are like 4 issues of examining the global financial architecture, looking at loss and damages risk that happen to island countries, you know, with the cyclones and storms, etc. How best to support them, get insurance. And in Sharm el-Sheikh last year, we were able to put a loss and damages package together with the G7, which will enable them to have access to resources when these cyclones occur, to look at debt in its generality and see where the relief components shall be, and then how to crowd in private sector resources to support financing of vulnerable countries. So that's the agenda, and hopefully by the time we get to Marrakesh, we would have gotten some answers to these, which will then help the financing of vulnerable countries.
Would there be room for carbon trading or?
That's all part of the whole real look at the global financial architecture, and also to understand carbon financing in a way in which it profits countries like us.
Honorable, finally, I mean, you had engagement with some U.S. business. What commitment have you been able to secure from them when it comes to foreign direct investment in a time where it's quite difficult? Companies are reining in. Have you been able to get any commitment from them when it comes to investments?
I think, George, the country, it's really favored. I mean, we had great interactions with quite a number of companies in many ways, in which the interest in Ghana is high. We just came from U.S. Exim Bank and the Development Finance Corporation of the U.S., clearly looking for ways in which we can enhance the business environment for more of them to come into our country. So people are determining and appreciating the centrality of what Ghana represents: peaceful, democratic, medium to long term, great economy, and they are looking to bet on it. And so on the front of the vulnerable countries, I think successful meetings were had with regards to IMF, successful meetings, and with regards to private sector, looking at Ghana as a definite destination, also great meetings. So we go back pretty excited and really thankful to the Lord for where He's placing us.
Appreciate your time, Honorable. And this has been PM Express Business Edition. We didn't come to you from Ministry of Finance's office or the studios in Joy 99.7, but from Washington, D.C., where the annual IMF spring meetings took place. My name is George Wiafe. I know that debate will still go on in your homes and offices as in how we should ensure fiscal discipline and ensure that we keep on track as a country. Have a good day.